Oscar Piastri doesn't arrive in Brazil merely chasing points. He arrives carrying a theory. For 2 weeks, McLaren has stood firm on one explanation for his sudden loss of form: that it was circumstantial, born from low-grip circuits that punished precision and rewarded chaos. In Austin and Mexico, that chaos belonged to Lando Norris. Now, Interlagos becomes the experiment. The track's elevation changes, its rhythm, its smoother surface, all should, in theory, neutralise the imbalance. And if McLaren's explanation holds true, Piastri should look reborn here. But theories are fragile in Formula One. Every corner, every lap, every twitch of oversteer will test not just the car, but the credibility of the team that built it. Because if Piastri still struggles on neutral ground, the track theory collapses, replaced by an uncomfortable truth about who's truly mastering the MCL 39. For Piastri, this weekend isn't about proving Norris wrong. It's about proving McLaren right. And in a season where every microtrend is magnified into a title-defining narrative, the smallest misstep now feels heavier than ever. If you're drawn to understanding how pressure and adaptation shape champions, this is where to stay close. Because Piastri's experiment is only just beginning. 4 races remain in a championship that has already turned itself inside out. What once looked like a measured march toward a maiden title has become a psychological dogfight between teammates, with Max Verstappen quietly stalking from the shadows, just 36 points behind. Norris leads the standings by a single point, having outscored Piastri in 5 consecutive rounds. The transformation began after Zandvoort, when Piastri's lead ballooned to 34 points. What should have been the start of a smooth run-in became a collapse of rhythm and confidence. In Baku, it started with chaos, multiple crashes and a DNF that shattered his momentum. The following weekends in Austin and Mexico exposed a deeper mismatch. The MCL 39's window of performance demanded a driving style that came naturally to Norris but not to Piastri. McLaren team principal Andrea Stella explained it with his characteristic, calm precision. "It was good to prove that it was the fastest car," he said after the Mexico Grand Prix. But the fastest car needs to be driven in a certain way, especially when you have conditions like here and to some extent in Austin with hot tarmac, sliding tyres. The way you generate lap time comes relatively naturally for Lando and less naturally for Oscar. It's not an excuse, it's a lesson. The McLaren is a car on a knife's edge. In the right hands, it dances. In the wrong conditions, it bites. And Piastri, still in only his 3rd Formula One season, has been learning in public what that really means. Stella continued, "He's not even finished his 3rd season in Formula One, so experiencing situations like we have in Mexico and Austin is how you calibrate yourself as a driver. Every session, Oscar is learning what you need to do. What McLaren insists is that there's no hidden mechanical flaw, no broken chassis or unlucky rotation of components. Every piece of data we have tells us there is no problem with the car," Stella said, dismissing rumours of a compromised monocoque. "In the history of F1, there's always talk about changing the chassis. But in reality, parts are constantly rotating. There's no evidence to suspect an issue. So the theory stands. Piastri's struggles weren't mechanical, but contextual. They came from surfaces that stripped away his natural precision, which is why São Paulo, with its balanced layout, high downforce demands and smoother asphalt, is meant to be the proving ground. But that's the thing about theories. They demand evidence. Dr. Sami Diasinos, former Williams and Caterham aerodynamicist, offered his technical take to news.com.au. Each car is tuned to the liking of the driver, so it's unlikely they're set up the same. I'm confident McLaren will set up Oscar's car to what he and his engineers feel is best. The question is, does he now change his approach, become less conservative, a bit more aggressive with the setup? Diasinos went further, suggesting that the psychological side may have played its part. After Azerbaijan, his confidence may have taken a hit. When you're leading by 35 points, it's easy to think you can afford to be cautious. But this season's so close that any small change in mindset can cost positions. It's a portrait of a driver caught between caution and instinct. Piastri's clean, methodical style has been his hallmark, the very reason he emerged as a championship leader. But Formula One, in its cruel logic, rarely lets one approach work everywhere. To win this title, he must embrace the very chaos his teammate thrives in. The Australian admitted as much after Mexico. "The last couple of weekends have required a very different way of driving," he said. "What's worked for me all year has needed something different recently. Trying to wrap my head around why has been a bit of a struggle, but it's been about trying to exploit it as much as I can. That struggle isn't just personal, it's cultural within McLaren." Zak Brown, ever the race's CEO, made clear that the team will not pick a side, even with the title at risk. "I'd rather go, we did the best we can and our drivers tied on points and the other guy beat us by 1, than tell one of our drivers, 'You don't get to fight for it this year,'" he said. "Forget it. That's not how we go racing. It's an admirable philosophy, pure racing spirit. But as Ralf Schumacher noted, purity can come at a price. If a driver has lost trust in the team, or vice versa, that's a clear sign consequences need to follow," he said on Backstage Boxengasse. Schumacher even hinted that talks between Piastri and Aston Martin for a post-2026 move may already exist if the relationship with McLaren frays further. For now, that remains paddock noise. What's undeniable is that Interlagos carries emotional weight. It's where titles have swung and legends have broken. Hamilton in 2007, Verstappen in 2024, rain, chaos and redemption coexist here like nowhere else. And there's a twist. Weather forecasts again point to rain. For Piastri, that could either compound his discomfort or gift him the unpredictable conditions that level the field. Diassinos believes the wet could work in his favour, if he dares. It'll be interesting to see if his mindset changes. Maybe he'll go for a more aggressive approach in qualifying or setup. The fastest car is often the hardest to drive. That fine balance between aggression and control, self-belief and overreach defines championship battles. And right now, McLaren's refusal to prioritise one driver mirrors its car, blisteringly fast but perpetually on edge. If Interlagos brings the chaos it usually does, McLaren's equal treatment policy could backfire spectacularly. As Diassinos warned, it's okay while McLaren are the two leading cars, but when others get between them, Verstappen, Ferrari, whoever, they won't have the freedom to manage fairness like that. It's a fair point. You can orchestrate parity when you control the front. When you don't, fairness becomes fragility. Chris Medland, speaking to SEN Radio, was more optimistic about Piastri's resilience. "The last 2 races were a blip. I expect him to be stronger this weekend. He learns quickly from mistakes. If he stays within touch of Norris, the pressure could shift back." There lies the essence of São Paulo 2025, a race not about supremacy, but correction. For McLaren, it's a test of truth. Is their data-driven optimism justified, or are they clinging to a comforting illusion? For Piastri, it's even simpler. The only way to silence a theory is to invalidate it, with speed, precision and defiance. It's not about finding excuses or chasing ghosts, it's about rediscovering the version of Oscar Piastri who looked untouchable in Zandvoort, who outdrove experience with calm execution. He doesn't need fireworks, he needs fluency. Interlagos offers that canvas, sweeping curves, long traction zones, and that final drag uphill where balance between aggression and control determines glory or regret. If McLaren's theory holds, he should thrive. If it doesn't, it will expose something deeper, not about machinery, but about mind. And as the skies darken over São Paulo, Formula One once again feels like what it truly is. A pressure lab disguised as sport, where belief and data collide at 300 kilometers per hour. Because sometimes the hardest thing to prove in Formula One isn't whether a theory is right. It's whether you still believe in it when the stopwatch says otherwise.